This poor girl named Minjin pretended to be a rich heiress and took her classmates to the luxurious mansion where her mother worked, claiming it was her home. When her classmates saw the villa and luxury cars, they all looked at her with envy. Minjin's vanity was greatly satisfied. Her classmates asked if they could visit her home. Minjin, fearing she would be exposed, Li Dan said she had to go to piano lessons. She promised to invite them over another time. Just then, her mother, Hu Jun, came out cursing angrily. It was because she hadn't received her weekly wages in advance. Minjin quickly lowered her head, afraid that her mother would recognize her, but her mother discovered her anyway. The classmates realized from their conversation that the cleaning lady was Minjin's mother. Minjin was very ashamed. She immediately ran away. When she returned home, her mother was preparing dinner for Minjin. Minjin was angry with her mother. Hu Jun, who didn't know what was going on, pulled her aside and asked what was wrong. Minjin blamed her mother for letting her classmates know she was a cleaner. Hu Jun realized she hadn't handled the situation well and had embarrassed her daughter. She had just wanted to take on an extra job to improve their living conditions. She quickly apologized to her daughter. However, Minjin blamed her mother for giving birth to her in the first place. She then ran out the door. Hu Jun hurried after her but tripped and fell. She blamed herself for not being able to give her daughter the life she wanted. The next day, Minjin pretended nothing had happened and ate in the school cafeteria. Her classmates' strange glances clearly showed they knew she was lying. Two female classmates mocked her for being a rich girl who should not be eating in the cafeteria. Minjin lied, saying her nutritionist told her it was healthy. The classmates asked if the cleaner from yesterday was her mother. Minjin lied, saying the woman was mentally ill and mistook her for her own daughter. The classmates insisted Minjin was lying. Minjin mocked them for being naughty. She then left indifferently. That day, Minjin volunteered to the teacher to participate in a modeling competition hosted by wealthy families. The teacher asked Minjin if her mother could attend to participate. Minjin intentionally gave a wrong number. The teacher asked why no one answered the phone. Minjin said her mother was out playing golf with friends. To hide her poverty from her classmates and teacher, Minjin pretended to be a rich girl. This was a modeling competition for children hosted by the wealthy. Minjin wouldn't miss this chance to change her fate. To win the competition, she picked out her best clothes, but none of them were satisfactory. Minjin scolded her mother, saying that the clothes you wear determine who you are. She then grabbed her bag and ran out the door. She came alone to participate in the modeling contest hosted by the wealthy. Upon seeing the host, she immediately put on a polite expression. The girl in front of her was Bori. She was the daughter of a wealthy family. After seeing Minjin's elegant attire, Bori couldn't help but strike up a conversation with her. Minjin, wearing lipstick, was lost in her own world. Bori wanted to get Minjin's attention. She gently pushed her. Minjin saw this and immediately pulled Bori's belt, breaking it. Bori angrily pushed Minjin to the ground. Minjin immediately pretended that her wrist was injured. Bori quickly apologized to Minjin. Minjin pretended not to mind and said it was okay. She thought Bori was a boy and mocked her for being cowardly. At that moment, the staff announced that it was time to go on stage. Minjin got up and forcefully pulled Bori onto the stage. Bori finally realized she had been tricked. Minjin dragged Bori onto the stage in a hurry. She was wearing beautiful clothes, while Bori was dressed in ragged clothes. Minjin picked up a fan and began to dance. The audience immediately burst into applause. With no other option, Bori used a rope as a belt to desperately salvage her appearance. However, Minjin performed exceptionally well. Bori ultimately fell short. Without a doubt, Minjin emerged victorious. Bori, who lost the competition, was severely scolded by her mother. In Ho, meanwhile, Minjin received a custom-made dress from the organizers. Bori immediately chased after Minjin and demanded to know why she had deliberately ruined her sash. Minjin replied that competitions only care about the results. Anyway, I'm the champion. Bori, furious, snatched Minjin's dress and threw it into the water. Now she felt satisfied, but Bori didn't expect Minjin to jump into the water and retrieve the dress. That night, Minjin was admiring her dress. When she heard her mother coming in, she quickly hid the dress. Her mother walked in and immediately noticed the new dress. Minjin hurriedly said, "Don't touch it." Her mother asked, "Is this expensive dress stolen?" Minjin claimed that she had earned it through her own efforts. She complained that her mother dressed too old-fashioned. She would rather be an orphan than follow her mother. Hu Jun, who loved her daughter dearly, thought she had to dress her up nicely so she wouldn't be embarrassed. The next day, the creditor found Hu Chun's vegetable stall and started smashing it up. The reason she owed money was just to buy her daughter some good food. In the end, she was unable to pay back the high-interest loan. The creditor threatened to go to her daughter's school to take her away. They claimed someone had already gone to find her daughter. Hu Jun rushed over. Two men snatched Minjin's backpack and headscarf and demanded her mother pay to get them back. Hu Jun, who had just arrived, threw her high heels at them, and rushed forward to protect Minjin. She charged at the debt collector, ready to fight. The man pushed Hoojun to the ground and stepped on her leg. Minjin angrily stood up and scolded them. She then grabbed the man's hand and bit it. Hoojun also joined in. The four of them fought violently. The men, considering that they were at the school gate, threatened to come back tomorrow. Hoojun looked at her pitiful daughter and felt deeply guilty. Minjin angrily told her mother that the creditors wouldn't give up so easily. Seeing her mother crying helplessly, Minjin suggested that her mother sell her to a wealthy family. That way, everyone would have an easier life. Hoojun apologized to her daughter, but didn't know how to make it up to her. That night, the mother and daughter packed their belongings and prepared to leave in the middle of the night. Minjin asked her mother where they were going. Hoojun said they would go to the suburbs to hide. But then it started raining heavily. Hoojun looked at her sleeping daughter and silently vowed to give her the best life possible. Hoojun drove all night, constantly slapping her face to stay awake. Suddenly, a girl appeared ahead, waving frantically. Hoojun couldn't brake in time and hit the girl, knocking her to the ground. Fearing responsibility, the mother and daughter secretly took the girl to a hotel. Luckily, the girl woke up. The girl was Bori, who had participated in the modeling competition with Minjin. She had accidentally gotten separated from her mother. Bori, who was confused from the accident, mistook Hoojun for her mother. Minjin told her mother to call the police. Hoojun was worried about going to jail. After discussing it, the mother and daughter decided to secretly escape. But just as they reached the lobby, they saw the police arriving to investigate. Unexpectedly, Bori also followed them. To get rid of them, Hoojun had no choice but to take her with him. After eating at a restaurant, Hoojun planned to abandon Bori again. However, the debt collectors caught up with them. Fortunately, Bori put on a show and managed to distract them. That night, they finally arrived at the village. Seeing the dilapidated rental house, Minjin looked disgusted. Hoojun besieged his daughter, saying he would take on 2 more jobs so she could attend a better private school. They then rented a small restaurant and started a new life. Hoojun couldn't bear to let Minjin work, so he assigned the cleaning duties to Bori. That evening, Hoojun prepared a sumptuous dinner for the 2 of them. Since the neighbors all thought Bori was her daughter, she decided to pass Bori off as Minjin's younger sister. One day, Minjin came home from school and saw Bori drawing. She kicked her to the ground and told Bori to go help in the restaurant. In the restaurant, Minjin saw a cockroach on the floor and screamed in fear. Bori reached out and squashed the cockroach. Minjin not only didn't thank her but also scolded Bori for having dirty hands. Bori helped out at the store every day. Meanwhile, Minjin went to violin lessons every day. Minjin bought new clothes every week. Bori wore the hand-me-downs from her sister. Minjin had sandwiches from the bakery for breakfast. Bori could only drink plain porridge. Minjin treated Bori like a servant. One day, Bori saw a drawing competition and felt an urge to participate. She didn't know that her biological parents had organized it to find her. Minjin was surprised to see how well Bori could draw. When she saw that the first prize was a scholarship, she couldn't help but get an idea. In order to win the competition, Minjin secretly took Bori's drawing and entered it in the competition, and lied to Bori, saying she was entering it for her. Bori's father, Subon, a professor, wanted to find his lost daughter through her drawings because she was very talented. During the competition, Bori's parents saw the drawing Minjin had brought and almost mistook her for their own daughter. Thus, Bori missed the opportunity to reunite with her parents. Meanwhile, at the shop, Hoojun's creditor came looking for him. Bori accidentally revealed her mother's identity. In the end, the shop was completely destroyed. They were warned not to run away again. From now on, all the shop's income would have to be used to pay off the debt. Hoojun knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. He said Minjin's dream of attending a prestigious university was about to be shattered. Bori rushed over and apologized. Hoojun immediately took out his anger on Bori. Meanwhile, Minjin won the competition smoothly. Bori's parents invited Minjin to dinner at their home. Minjin, who had won first place, was very happy. They asked Minjin why she had come to the competition alone. Minjin lied, saying that her parents had died when she was 1 year old. She was now being raised by an older woman. However, she often went hungry and was poorly clothed, and had to help out at a shop every day. The couple felt very sorry for her, and said that their daughter had also gone missing. Seeing how hardworking Minjin was, they promised to sponsor her college education. That night, Minjin's mother told her that all the money she earned had to go to the creditors, and that she couldn't send her to a prestigious school. But Minjin proudly said that she had already found someone to sponsor her. Her mother suddenly became worried, fearing the sponsor might be a scammer who would sell Minjin. However, Minjin coldly replied that even if she were sold, it would be better than staying with them. That day, Minjin suddenly offered to help her mother with chores, but Hoojun stopped her and told Bori to do it instead. She was afraid of getting her daughter's hands dirty. Bori didn't complain at all. Minjin looked at her mother, wanting to say goodbye but couldn't bring herself to do so, because in her heart, she had already made up her mind to run away from home. Unaware of this, Hoojun was happy to see his daughter offering to help. In fact, Minjin was so eager to succeed at such a young age because her mother had spoiled her too much. This had prevented Minjin from developing proper values. Bori was peeling garlic cloves and crying from the spiciness. Kujun told her to go wash the dishes, but Bori didn't want to leave her mother and insisted on continuing to peel the garlic. Meanwhile, at school, Subong and his wife came to find students in need of financial assistance. Minjin saw In-ho and rushed over to hug her. The couple saw how much Minjin liked them and heard that she had no parents, so they decided to sponsor her. That night, Minjin took advantage of her mother being asleep, packed her bags, and secretly ran away from home. Before leaving, she left a letter. Before leaving, she quietly said that she was doing this for the good of the family. She promised that once she became wealthy, she would buy them a big house. Then she left without looking back. In the morning, Kujun found Minjin's letter and panicked. Bori cried while reading it to her mother. Minjin said that they should never contact each other again. She didn't want the wealthy family who adopted her to find out she had lied, as that would cause trouble. We'll meet again someday. Kujun, who had always been too kind to scold his daughter, finally lost his temper. He was deeply worried about Minjin's safety. He used the business card from before to find Minjin. When he saw his daughter, he hid nearby to observe. Minjin was startled to see her mother. Knowing her mother was worried, she deliberately asked the professor and his wife if they had been providing for her all this time. The professor and his wife directly stated that as long as she studied hard, going to the United States for further education wouldn't be a problem. This conversation was intentionally overheard by Minjin. She wanted her mother to let her live a good life. As Minjin was descending the stairs, Kujun turned her back to them. She only began to cry once they had walked far away. She watched Minjin leave her. Seeing her daughter finally living a good life, she could only silently send her blessings. 16 years passed in the blink of an eye. Bori had grown up. She was smart and charming, and everyone loved her. With the professor's financial support, Minjin had successfully enrolled in a prestigious university. To prevent her lie from being exposed, Minjin called Bori in advance and told her not to attend her graduation ceremony. She hung up the phone in a hurry. Bori naively thought her sister was worried her mother would be too tired and didn't want them to attend the graduation ceremony. On the other side, the professor and his wife came to attend Minjin's graduation ceremony. In front of them, Minjin pretended to be obedient. She cried and thanked the couple for their financial support. In-ho comforted her, saying that she had earned it all on her own. At that moment, Bori and her mother also arrived at the school. Bori saw her sister and hurriedly greeted her. Her mother saw the professor and his wife standing nearby. To avoid putting Minjin in an awkward position, she quickly covered Bori's mouth. Her mother said that they could just watch from afar. Bori knew that they had sponsored her sister's education, but she still didn't understand why her mother was doing this. As they were preparing to leave, Bori saw her sister taking a photo with the professor. Ignoring her mother's attempts to stop her, she ran over and offered to help them take the photo. After the photo was taken, Minjin quickly scolded Bori for showing up there. Bori was completely confused. Minjin gritted her teeth and said, "If you don't leave now, we're done." Kujun rushed over and pulled Bori away. On the way home, Bori saw her mother looking very depressed. To cheer her mother up, she took out the pocket money she had saved and said that her sister had asked her to give it to her mother. She then took her mother to buy some nice clothes. Kujun thought that Minjin knew how to show her respect. That day, In-ho took Minjin to a restaurant for dinner and gave her a watch as a graduation gift. Minjin accidentally saw her rich boyfriend Ji-sang working at the restaurant. She couldn't believe it was true. She remembered Ji-sang always saying he was in school. It was all a lie. Minjin ran to the kitchen to find Ji-sang. She confronted him. "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" Ji-sang made an excuse, saying he was just working part-time. Minjin pulled open the bag Ji-sang was holding. The food spilled on the floor. "You've been feeding me leftovers every day, and saying they were made by your maid." Minjin's dream of marrying into a wealthy family was shattered. When Minjin was staying at the professor's house, she discovered that In-ho was a master of hanbok design. Minjin asked In-ho to teach her this craft. However, In-ho said he would only pass it on to his biological daughter. He then gave Minjin some money. Minjin was unwilling to accept this. Meanwhile, Bori's master, Yi-soo, discovered that Bori had a natural talent for designing hanbok. He decided to take her as his apprentice. Bori was overjoyed upon hearing this. Minjin went to Ji-sang's father's company. She asked the security guard if the company had changed owners. The security guard said that the previous owner had gone bankrupt some time ago. This news was a bolt from the blue for Minjin. At that time, she was already several months pregnant. She had thought she could marry into a wealthy family by having a child, but now she was certain she would not keep the baby. So she went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said the fetus was developing well. However, Minjin asked the doctor to terminate the pregnancy. The doctor said, "You were in such a hurry to get pregnant before." Minjin lied, claiming her husband had died in a car accident, but the fetus was already 5 months old. It was too late for an abortion. The doctor told Minjin she had no choice but to give birth to the child. Hearing this, Minjin completely broke down. She vowed to herself that she would do whatever it took to terminate the pregnancy. However, the doctor refused to perform the procedure. Desperate, Minjin went to a sauna, hoping it might induce a miscarriage, but her plan failed. Ji-sang found the ultrasound report in the trash that day. He excitedly ran to ask Minjin if she was pregnant, but Minjin coldly said she had already had an abortion because we're too poor to afford it. Ji-sang pleaded that he would take care of both of them, but Minjin harshly pushed her boyfriend away and demanded to cut off all ties with him. Ji-sang had no choice but to go to Minjin's house, but In-ho said he hadn't seen her in a long time. It turned out that Minjin had already told In-ho that there was a boy at school who was always bothering her. She just wanted to focus on her work. In-ho helped her get rid of Ji-sang. To prevent her secret from being exposed, she started wrapping her stomach with cloth strips. To please In-ho, she actively did housework, because she firmly believed that by being with a rich man, she could also become rich. That day, Minjin returned to her mother's house. She saw that her sister's hanbok was even more beautiful than hers, even though she had studied hanbok for 4 years. When Bo-ri returned, Minjin directly told her sister that she could no longer make hanbok. Her sister didn't understand why, and Minjin's reason was that she felt uncomfortable. Upon hearing this, her mother immediately agreed and told Bo-ri not to continue making clothing either. She scolded Bo-ri and told her to go cook for her sister. Bo-ri had no choice but to obey. After all, her sister only came back once every 10 years. That night, Bo-ri gave her bed to her sister. She curled up in the hallway and spent the night there. The next morning, Bo-ri saw her mother burning her hanbok creations. She couldn't help but confront her mother about it. Her mother said it was because her sister opposed it. "You can't do it." Seeing Bo-ri's opposition, her mother poured a basin of water over her head. She then roughly grabbed Bo-ri's hair and forced her to work. Yi-soo couldn't bear to watch anymore, so she took Bo-ri away from the store. In the days that followed, her mother had to work alone in the store. Faced with an endless pile of work, she finally remembered Bo-ri's kindness. Bo-ri told her master that no matter what her mother said, she would study Korean traditional clothing design diligently because she wanted to earn money and didn't want her mother to work so hard anymore. Since Bo-ri had left Huchun's shop, customers said it was too quiet and didn't want to eat there anymore. Just then, Bo-ri returned to the shop. Seeing this, she explained that she hadn't come because she was too busy. Then she sang a song to entertain everyone. When no one was around, Bo-ri pleaded with her mother again to let her continue making Korean traditional clothing, but her mother could only think of Minjin because Minjin didn't like her making Korean traditional clothing. Bo-ri said she could make them in the countryside, which wouldn't conflict with her sister's life in the city. Hoo-jun also felt he had been too harsh, so he agreed to let Bo-ri continue making Korean traditional clothing. The condition was that she had to do it secretly without her sister finding out. For this, Bo-ri began to work tirelessly. Meanwhile, in the city, Minjin was learning to make hanbok with In-ho. The sisters' learning environments were as different as night and day. One day, Minjin and Bo-ri both happened to participate in a design competition. Both of them made it to the final round. At the competition venue, Minjin spotted Bo-ri. She dragged her to a corner and confronted her, asking why she had come to the competition. After saying that, she tore up Bo-ri's work. Bo-ri begged her sister to let her participate. At that moment, Minjin suddenly said, "You were raised by a mother who isn't biologically related to you. How dare you treat me like this?" Bo-ri was confused. She had always believed that she was her mother's biological daughter. She had no idea that she was only an adopted child. She thought her sister was just angry with her. At that moment, she was worried about how she would explain to her mother if she found out that she had entered the competition. But she never expected that Hoo-jun, in order for Minjin to win the competition, would ruthlessly cut up Bo-ri's entry. He then scolded Bo-ri's mentor. Bo-ri sat on the ground, crying in despair. Fortunately, Yi-soo had prepared a backup entry for Bo-ri. However, Bo-ri missed the bus to the exhibition hall. At that moment, a prosecutor named Ji-hoon appeared. They had been good friends as children. However, after Bo-ri was adopted, they lost touch and didn't recognize each other. Hoo-jun called Minjin to tell her that he had destroyed Bo-ri's entry. Thinking that victory was assured, Minjin told In-ho that they had won first place in the competition. In-ho was very surprised. Minjin explained that their competitor had withdrawn from the competition. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon arrived at the venue just in time to bring Bo-ri. Minjin had just put down the competition outfit and was about to leave. When Bo-ri rushed in, she hurriedly arranged her work. Just then, the judges entered. They saw Bo-ri's work and were immediately moved. In the rest area, area. Minjin and In-ho waited for the award results. The staff told them that the judges had reached a preliminary decision. Minjin thought she was sure to win first place. However, the staff said that the judges had chosen the contestant named Bori. Minjin was shocked. She angrily found Bori and scolded her. She then slapped Bori across the face and said she no longer wanted a sister like her. Bori finally saw her sister's true colors. In-ho was furious that Minjin had lost to Bori, who was from the countryside. She was very angry. Minjin, however, had a plan. She told In-ho that she had a way to change the judges' minds. It turned out that Minjin had observed Judge Yumi's behavior on stage and the drinks on the table and concluded that Yumi was pregnant. To win the award, Minjin approached Yumi and threatened her with the pregnancy. As a female celebrity, if the news of her pregnancy were to be exposed, her reputation would be ruined. To avoid exposure, she must support my work. When the results were announced, Minjin won the award, as she had hoped. Bori asked Yumi why she changed her initial opinion. Yumi explained that after comprehensive consideration, Minjin's work was better. Bori cried helplessly. Although it was just a dress, it was something she and her master had designed and revised for an entire year. It was supposed to win the award. Seeing Bori so heartbroken, Ji-hoon rushed over to confront Yumi, asking if she had been influenced by others, and change her original decision. Yumi, seeing this, refused to admit it. Ji-hoon told Yumi that Bori had even been kicked out of her home by her mother for making the hanbok. You're going against your conscience, and you'll be punished for it. After saying that, he took the hanbok Bori had designed. In-ho, who had won, was in a great mood, and was praising Minjin. When Yumi was hurriedly carried out, it turned out that Yumi had suddenly fainted. When the staff said that Yumi was allergic to pollen, Minjin suddenly looked panicked. In-ho noticed something was wrong with Minjin, and took her to a secluded place to ask her if she had done it. Minjin said that she had heard Yumi liked the scent of flowers, so she added floral elements to the hanbok design, but it ended up causing such a big problem. In-ho asked her if she had written pollen in the hanbok design draft. Minjin said it was something she added on the spot. In-ho began to worry. Soon after, Minjin sensed that she was about to give birth, but instead of rushing to the hospital, she hurriedly took a taxi to the countryside. Minjin wanted to maintain her pure image in front of her foster father, so she kept binding her stomach until the last moment to hide her pregnancy. In the car, she called her mother and told Bori not to come home. Her mother then sent Bori to her master's house. In the room, her mother discovered that Minjin was pregnant. To prevent others from finding out about her shame, Minjin endured the pain without uttering a sound. Under her mother's careful care, the baby was finally born. Minjin was still worried that the baby's cries would expose her. She asked her mother to cover the baby's mouth. Her mother helplessly said there were no neighbors next door, and how could such a newborn baby not cry? She placed the baby next to Minjin and told her to look at her child, but Minjin didn't even glance at it. To her, the child was just a burden. After her mother left, Minjin held the baby and said she hoped it could live in a wealthy family in the future. She then hurriedly left a note for her mother and left without saying goodbye. Bori and her master happened to return at that moment. They saw the cloth in the basin and heard the baby's cries. They discovered there was a newborn baby in the house. Just then, Hoojun entered. Bori asked what the baby was. Hoojun lied, saying he had found it at the door that morning. Bori felt sorry for the baby. The experienced Jisoo immediately noticed the birthing tools. She knew there must be more to the story. Hoojun deceived Jisoo and left her alone in the corner of the room, where she wept bitterly. Meanwhile, Minjin was still hiding nearby. The mother began to blame herself for letting her daughter down. Seeing this, Minjin also broke down in tears. She hadn't been able to give her mother a better life. As Bori reached for the note on the baby's body, Hoojun snatched it away instantly. Then he sent Bori to buy formula. Minjin said that she didn't want the child to affect her life. She told her mother to take the baby to an orphanage immediately. Hoojun looked at her granddaughter and was heartbroken, but she still chose to listen to Minjin's words. She could only cry as she sent the baby away. Minjin's current situation was largely due to her mother's excessive pampering. On the other side, In-ho noticed Minjin's poor complexion and seemed to sense that she was pregnant, so she took out the pregnancy books and nutritional supplements from Minjin's cabinet and confronted Minjin about whether she went to the hospital because she was pregnant. Seeing that In-ho was about to uncover her secret, Minjin explained that it was because she found out that Yumi was pregnant and bought these things to better understand her. It was precisely because of these small details that our work had a chance to win. After hearing the explanation, In-ho felt he had misunderstood Minjin. Minjin, seeing this, hurriedly hugged In-ho and said it was her duty. But In-ho coldly replied, even though you've been tired lately, you still have to help at the dye shop today. After following In-ho for over a decade, Minjin still couldn't gain her approval. In-ho only saw her as a servant in the household. Minjin felt utterly despairing. By the time she had hung up all the fabrics, it started pouring rain. rain. Seeing the fabrics completely soaked, In-ho scolded Minjin for not being able to do even such basic work. Minjin immediately apologized and braved the rain to wash the fabrics again. Cold and hungry, she ran into the kitchen to eat some instant rice. Just then, Minjin received a call from her mother, who asked if she had eaten anything to keep her strength up. Hearing her mother's concern, Minjin couldn't help but shed tears. Was this the luxurious life she had fought so hard for? That day, Kujun took her child to see a doctor. The doctor said that the child had problems since he was in the womb. Kujun almost fainted upon hearing this. After returning home, she hid in a corner and called Minjin. She said that the child was very sick. Minjin replied, "Didn't I tell you to send him to the orphanage?" Kujun said the child still had a fever. She worriedly asked Minjin what they should do. Minjin, however, said she was too upset to care about the child. Kujun noticed that Bori really liked the child. She hinted to Bori that she should adopt the child. To her surprise, Bori agreed to be the child's mother. This was exactly what Kujun had hoped for. In the afternoon, Minjin suddenly called and asked her mother to bring the child to a remote church. As soon as they met, Minjin accused her mother of not taking good care of the child. Kujun said tearfully, "You tied his stomach with a cloth for so long. How could the child develop healthily?" Minjin knew she had wronged the child and decided to feed the baby one last time. At that moment, Minjin fulfilled her duty as a mother. But then Minjin coldly said that this was the last time she would see the baby. Kujun asked if she really wanted to send the baby to an orphanage. Minjin exclaimed, "Do you want this child to ruin my life again?" Then she left without looking back. But Kujun decided to raise the child himself. When he returned home, Yisu asked Kujun if he really intended to let Bori adopt the child. Kujun replied that it was Bori's own choice. In the days that followed, Bori raised the child for Minjin. She was scolded by her foster mother for coming home too late from work. Even Yisu couldn't bear to watch anymore. She found her own mother-in-law, Sutai, hoping Bori could become her apprentice and improve their lives. To protect Minjin's reputation, Kujun carried the child around the streets, telling everyone it was Bori's illegitimate child. However, the neighbors were skeptical. When Yisu returned from the city, she told Bori she could come with her to learn there. Bori confessed she had already registered the child under her own household. Yisu was shocked. She rushed to Bori's house and scolded Kujun. Kujun explained that it was all Bori's idea. Meanwhile, Sutai was considering whether to take Bori as her apprentice. She called Minjin to ask about Bori's character. Upon hearing Bori's name, Minjin panicked. She claimed not to know her. Why was she suddenly mentioning this person? Grandma said she was planning to take this person as an apprentice because someone had strongly recommended her. Minjin, in an attempt to stop Bori from coming, Li Dan said Bori was a cunning person. Last time, Bori had secretly added pollen to the handbok to win the competition, which caused the judge Yumi to faint. After hearing this, Grandma began to have a bad impression of Bori. Minjin secretly vowed that she would never let Bori set foot in the handbok shop. That night, Minjin went to Bori's house. Unexpectedly, she ran into Yisu. Minjin told Yisu directly that Grandma had no intention of taking Bori as an apprentice. Coincidentally, Bori had just returned. Minjin looked at her sister as if she were an enemy. Bori saw her master being threatened. She confronted Minjin, asking what was going on. Minjin said she had come to remind her to mind her manners. Bori scolded her sister for bullying her master. Minjin mocked Bori, saying she would never be allowed into the Korean traditional clothing shop. Bori pleaded with her sister to visit their mother more often. Minjin coldly pushed her away. At that moment, Yisu caught up. She asked Bori if Minjin was her relative. Bori was still keeping her sister's identity a secret. She said they had only met during the competition. The next day, Minjin found Grandma again. She tried to persuade her not to take Bori as an apprentice, but Grandma, considering her daughter-in-law's feelings, decided to take Bori as an apprentice. Seeing that she couldn't change Grandma's mind, Minjin asked her grandmother not to teach Bori all her skills because Bori had ulterior motives. Her grandmother smiled and agreed with Minjin. After her grandmother left, Minjin stopped pretending to smile. Then she started talking to In-ho about her grandmother taking Bori as an apprentice. In-ho was very puzzled. Minjin lied and said that her grandmother didn't want In-ho to become the heir to the handbok shop. In the afternoon, Minjin used Jae-hee, the rich second-generation heir, to secure a major sponsorship for the handbok shop. In-ho was overjoyed upon receiving the investment. He began to tacitly acknowledge Minjin as his own daughter. After 20 years of effort, Minjin finally gained In-ho's recognition. Soon, Minjin secured Jae-hee's sponsorship and prepared to study abroad. Unexpectedly, her ex-boyfriend was waiting for her at the door. Minjin was terrified. She had thought her ex-boyfriend was still in prison. It turned out that Ji-sang had been framed by Minjin and sent to prison. At the time, his father was seriously ill. Minjin refused to drop the charges. Ji-sang was unable to see his father before he died. When Ji-sang saw Minjin's pregnant belly, he asked her where the child was. Minjin said the child had already died, and humiliated Ji-sang harshly. Ji-sang was so angry that he wanted to strangle Minjin. Fortunately, two detectives arrived in time to stop Ji-sang. The next day, on her way to the airport, Minjin saw a banner outside. She didn't know that the professor had been searching for his daughter, Do-ri. When Hoo-jun arrived at the airport, Minjin had already boarded the plane. Hoo-jun was devastated and cried bitterly. After Minjin went abroad to study, Do-ri took on two jobs and collected scrap to pay for Yudon's medical treatment. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Under Do-ri's careful upbringing, Yudan grew up to be a well-behaved child. Every time her grandmother bullied Do-ri, she would come to Do-ri's defense. Meanwhile, Minjin had also graduated and returned home. The next day, Hoo-jun and Do-ri sold their noodle shop and moved to the city. With Yi-su's help, Su-tai finally agreed to take Do-ri as his apprentice. That evening, In-ho learned that her older sister-in-law had introduced Do-ri to the hanbok shop to undermine her position. She discussed with her husband to have Minjin return to the country as soon as possible to prevent her mother-in-law from giving Do-ri a design position at the hanbok shop. On the day Do-ri stepped into the hanbok shop, In-ho started to give Do-ri a hard time. She warned Do-ri not to step foot in the shop without her permission, and told her to get out immediately. Fortunately, Grandma happened to pass by and scolded In-ho and made her realize who the hanbok shop really belonged to. After this incident, Do-ri was finally able to enter the Korean clothing shop to learn the trade. However, In-ho harbored a grudge and secretly warned Do-ri that this place was her territory. The Korean clothing shop would eventually belong to her daughter Minjin, but she never imagined that Do-ri was her long-lost daughter. After returning to Korea, Minjin's first priority was to plot with In-ho on how to get rid of Do-ri. Minjin found Do-ri and mocked her. Do-ri said she would no longer be bullied by her sister. The next day, Minjin and Jae-hee made plans to have dinner together. Jae-hee said she would introduce her to the company manager. She said he was very capable. If he could work with Minjin and contribute to the company, that would be great. Minjin didn't know that this man was her ex-boyfriend Ji-sang. Just as Ji-sang was about to go in, he received a message from Minjin saying she had returned to the country. He had been looking for Minjin all these years, so he immediately called Jae-hee and cancelled the dinner. Minjin suddenly saw Ji-sang and panicked. Knocking over her wine glass, she hurriedly explained that she had just returned to the country and was a little uncomfortable. Then she made an excuse to go to the restroom to touch up her makeup. In fact, she secretly ran downstairs to check. She was afraid that Ji-sang would ruin her future. The next day, Minjin and Jae-hee were discussing work. At that moment, Ji-sang walked in. Minjin was very nervous when she saw Ji-sang. In order not to let Jae-hee discover their relationship, they both pretended not to know each other. Minjin quickly made an excuse and left. Thinking about her shameful past, she couldn't help but feel afraid. Just as she was about to leave, Ji-sang stopped her. Minjin was terrified. She threatened to have him fired from the company. She even mentioned his past misdeeds. However, Ji-sang didn't seem to care. After leaving the building, Minjin sat down helplessly. She complained about how terrible her life was. That day, Do-ri came to the hanbok shop. She suddenly felt the sense of familiarity. Following her instincts, she went to Minjin's room. Do-ri didn't know that this was where she had lived as a child. She discovered that the painting on the wall was one she had drawn as a child. Just then, Minjin came in. Do-ri pointed out that her sister had used her words to win In-ho's sponsorship. Minjin nervously snatched it back and warned Do-ri to leave her room immediately. But Do-ri insisted that Minjin explain what was going on. Just as the two were arguing, Subon happened to pass by outside and heard part of the conversation about the painting. He hurried in to ask what was going on. Minjin quickly explained that Do-ri had entered the wrong room, while Do-ri continued to keep her sister's secret. Then they left. After Subon left, Minjin began to worry. She didn't know if the professor had heard their conversation. Subon also wondered if the painting was done by someone else. If so, there would be a chance to find his lost daughter. That day, Minjin accidentally saw a photo of her adoptive parents. She finally realized that Do-ri was their biological daughter. Unwilling to accept this, Minjin went to In-ho's room to sneak a look at his photo album. She found that all the photos were of Do-ri. Subon happened to notice this outside the door. That night, he discussed with his wife that Minjin must know where their daughter was. So In-ho began investigating Minjin's background from when she was a child. Minjin noticed this and became very worried. If she was discovered, her dream of marrying into a wealthy family would be shattered. She wanted to find her mother to stop Do-ri, but she hadn't contacted her mother in 5 years and didn't know her address. So she pleaded with Jae-hee to help find Do-ri's residence. However, Jae-hee asked Ji-sang to help instead. The two didn't didn't expect to end up in the same car. Minjin blamed Ji-sang for being too poor. That's why she didn't stay with him. Ji-sang said, "You must have fallen for Jae-hee, but he's already engaged to a wealthy heiress." Minjin didn't believe Ji-sang's words. When she returned home, she found In-ho looking for something. In-ho said that the cloth pad was made by a guest at great expense. At that moment, Minjin thought of Bo-ri. When she saw Bo-ri leaving with a package, she hinted that Bo-ri might have stolen it. In-ho agreed that it must have been his sister-in-law who told Bo-ri to do it on purpose, so they called Bo-ri home to confront her. Bo-ri was at a loss for words. Just then, Ji-hoon came in with the cloth pad and said that Jae-hee had asked him to bring it. In-ho knew that Minjin had taken documents to Jae-hee's company that afternoon, so he asked Minjin what was going on. Minjin replied vaguely that it might have been accidentally left in the documents. At this point, Subong couldn't help but scold her for being so careless. This made Minjin very angry. That day, the people In-ho sent to investigate returned. They found out that Minjin not only had a mother in the countryside, but also a younger sister. Minjin was very nervous. Subong got the address and said they should leave immediately. At that moment, Ji-sang called to tell her Bo-ri's address. Minjin hurried to Bo-ri's house. She wanted to stop Subong and her mother from meeting first. Minjin rushed in and shouted, "Mom," but she accidentally called out Yisu instead. Just then, Koo-jun also returned. She was about to say something, but Minjin hurriedly signaled her mother not to reveal her identity. She called her mother aunt again, just like she did when she was a child. The two pretended not to know each other. They finally managed to fool the teacher. Minjin hurriedly told her mother that her foster mother was coming to investigate her. At that time, she must pretend not to know me. Just then, Subong and his wife arrived. Subong asked Koo-jun if he recognized Minjin. Koo-jun said he had never heard of her. Seeing Subong persistently asking questions, Koo-jun suddenly shouted angrily. The couple had no choice but to leave. But just then, In-ho spotted Minjin's high heels. Subong quickly shouted Minjin's name. Minjin, hiding in the room, was so scared she didn't know what to do. In the end, she had no choice but to go out. Under Subong's questioning, Minjin lied that she had never met this aunt before. In-ho asked her why she was hiding inside. Minjin lied that her grandmother had sent her to find Bo-ri. Koo-jun chimed in to support her. Seeing this, Subong and his wife didn't dare say anything else. Minjin, seeing this, turned the tables and accused the two of investigating her background. This left Subong and his wife feeling very awkward. Minjin continued to recount her tragic story. Subong had no choice but to apologize to Minjin. After they all left, Koo-jun cried in frustration. It turned out that her daughter's life was not going well. That day, Bo-ri received a call at the hospital and was summoned to the hanbok shop again for questioning. Seeing that the dresses prepared for the exhibition were all ruined, she hurriedly explained that she didn't do it. Her grandmother asked the butler if anyone else had entered the room. The housekeeper said that only Bo-ri had been there temporarily. Bo-ri was at a loss for words. She suddenly remembered that she had encountered Minjin when delivering the dresses, so she told her grandmother about it. In-ho, who had always had reservations about Bo-ri, also questioned her. Sutai pointed out that he had heard she already had a child, but she wasn't even married yet. Subong was shocked to hear this. Bo-ri, in order to protect her daughter, didn't say that she had adopted her. In-ho immediately scolded Bo-ri for being unmarried and pregnant, saying she had no right to enter the hanbok shop. Bo-ri was so angry that she left immediately. Outside the door, she encountered Minjin, who had just returned. She immediately confronted her, asking why she had framed her. Minjin pretended not to know. Subong knew there must be a misunderstanding. He hurriedly stopped Bo-ri. He took out the wedding dress again for inspection. He said he would expel anyone who damaged the dress from the Korean traditional clothing shop. At that moment, Bo-ri whispered to Minjin, "If you admit it, I won't pursue this matter anymore." But Minjin firmly refused to admit it. Bo-ri thought her sister was too cruel. She directly stated, "When we make clothes, we always add a certain scent. Everyone's body odor is different." However, the torn dress had a perfume scent. Sutai sniffed and immediately noticed something. Bo-ri saw this and left immediately. In-ho knew the scent was from Minjin. Everyone looked at Minjin with disdain. Minjin knew she couldn't escape. She immediately knelt down to defend herself. Subong, unable to bear it anymore, told her to stop pretending. In-ho saw this and angrily ordered Minjin to get out. After everyone discovered that the dress had been cut by Minjin, according to In-ho's promise, Minjin was to be expelled from the hanbok shop. Returning to her room, Minjin didn't know where to go. She was going to be kicked out of this house. When she saw In-ho enter, she immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. However, In-ho looked helpless. Minjin asked In-ho for a way to stay at the hanbok shop. In-ho said that even if he agreed, his mother would never agree. "Unless you let Sutai leave here, everything will be fine if she steps down." Minjin understood In-ho's intention to take her place. She came up with another evil plan to secure her own future. Minjin called Jae-hee and said she had an urgent matter to discuss. Jae-hee made an excuse, saying he had to watch his girlfriend's performance. Watching his girlfriend and the heavy rain outside the window, Jae-hee hesitates. Minjin thinks Jae-hee won't come, but Jae-hee appears. Minjin ignores Jaehee's scolding and kisses him directly. The next day, a maid is suddenly hired to cook. Minjin hurriedly arranges the tableware. The grandmother, who doesn't want to eat with Minjin, asks the maid to bring the food to her room. Her adoptive father also said he wasn't hungry and left under the pretext of having no appetite. In-ho said that from now on, the nanny could just cook. Minjin couldn't believe she had ended up in such a situation. Meanwhile, Bo-ri told her master that although she had heard she was adopted, her mother had never mentioned it in front of outsiders. When the three of them met on the street, Minjin couldn't help but curse. However, Subong overheard their conversation. That day, Minjin packed her bags and pretended to leave. In-ho asked her where she was going. Minjin said she couldn't stay there anymore. Subong was dissatisfied and told her to leave immediately. Seeing this, Minjin lied and said she was really an orphan. She then took out a forged orphan certificate. In-ho asked her why she had always pretended not to know Bo-ri's mother. Minjin lied that her mother had abused her when she was a child. Seeing that the two were still unmoved, she took out the forged remittance records and said that her adoptive father had sent her every penny for living expenses, and she had to hand it all over to her mother. Otherwise, she would be beaten and scolded. In-ho believed her. Minjin pretended to thank the two for their support over the years. She then left pitifully with her suitcase. Unable to bear it, the two found Minjin's mother to verify the story. Hoo-jun, who had never received any money, was confused. Minjin took the opportunity to scold her mother for not admitting the truth. To support her daughter, Hoo-jun had no choice but to play the villain and blame Minjin. Subong, seeing Hoo-chun's cruelty, left angrily. In-ho, seeing this, splashed water on Hoo-chun's face. Humiliated, Hoo-jun waited until everyone had left before she dared to cry out loud. Subong and his wife then decided to adopt Minjin as their daughter. The next day, Minjin started playing tricks again. Because she had previously investigated Jaehee's fiancé Namhee's least favorite pattern, she deliberately hung one on her back. Namhee saw this and became furious. Just then, Jaehee witnessed the scene. Minjin continued to patiently explain. The angry Namhee directly splashed water at her. Minjin kept apologizing. Unable to bear it anymore, Jaehee stepped in to stop her. He then began to defend Minjin. Namhee threatened to cancel the cooperation between the two families. Seeing this, Jaehee took the initiative to break up with her. He then pulled Minjin away and left. Seeing the pitiful Minjin, Jaehee couldn't help but kiss her. While discussing work, In-ho asked Minjin to return to the hanbok shop to stay. Minjin pretended to be reluctant. Jaehee also agreed to reduce cooperation with the Korean clothing shop in the future. When Minjin showed In-ho the plan, several photos suddenly fell out. Minjin picked them up and found they were all photos of Bo-ri and her mother. She hurriedly stuffed them into her bag. In-ho then found Minjin and asked, "Do you think the Korean clothing shop will go out of business without you?" Minjin retorted, "You've always treated me like an outsider. If you were my mother, how could I leave you?" In-ho harshly stated that he only saw her as a student. Seeing that In-ho wasn't intimidated by her, Minjin immediately revealed that she knew about Jisoo's whereabouts. After returning home, In-ho discussed with his husband that having information about his sister-in-law could help find their missing daughter. If Minjin became their daughter, then many problems could be solved. That night, Minjin found Ji-sang. She knew that Bo-ri's photo must have been slipped in by him. Ji-sang said, "As long as you tell me where the child is, I won't bother you anymore." Minjin, seeing this, said harshly, "The child is already lost." The next day, In-ho told Minjin to prepare to formally adopt her as their daughter. Minjin was shocked. She immediately said she would do her best to serve her father, but Subong was still thinking about his own daughter. That day, Hoo-jun saw a missing person flyer. It was a photo of Bo-ri when she was a child. Seeing how kind Bo-ri had always been to her, she decided to help Bo-ri find her biological parents. Meanwhile, In-ho told Minjin to just call him mom from now on. Minjin was overjoyed. Just then, Subong received a call from Hoo-jun. Upon hearing the news about their daughter, the couple couldn't help but cry. Minjin rushed back to her room to call her mother. At that moment, In-ho entered and told Minjin to put the matter of adopting her as a daughter on hold for now. Minjin panicked upon hearing this. The family was eagerly awaiting news about their daughter at home. Just then, the doorbell rang. Minjin rushed to open the door. Hoo-jun was very surprised to see Minjin. Minjin quickly snatched the flyer from her mother's hand. At that moment, Subong arrived. Minjin quickly typed a message on her phone to signal her mother to leave quickly. Hoo-jun understood and said he was just there to find Bo-ri. After Subong left, Hoo-jun pulled his daughter to meet him at the coffee shop. Back at home, Minjin lied and said Hoo-jun had come for Bo-ri's hanbok shop wages. She even tried to come in and scold her grandmother, Soo-tide, who had been protecting Bo-ri. Couldn't help but get angry. Later, Later, Minjin went to the coffee shop. Koojun explained that he didn't know Bori was Subong's daughter. Minjin said that no one else could know about this. Otherwise, she would be ruined. Koojun said, uneasily. You're going to ruin Bori's life. Minjin argued. You raised Bori for 20 years. It's only right that Subong and his family repay you for your daughter. Koojun, who knew the truth, felt uneasy, but for the sake of her daughter, she had no choice but to keep it a secret. Since no one called, Subong went to look for surveillance footage. He discovered that it was Koojun who had called. Minjin saw this and hurriedly called her mother. She told her mother to prepare a response. Soon after, Subong stormed to Huchun's house. Bori had just returned home. Subong asked Koojun why she had called, saying she had found her daughter. Koojun deliberately said it was to extort money. Subong and her husband were furious. In-ho believed Bori must have been involved as well. He vowed to make them all pay. The next day, Koojun found out that Subong and her husband were planning to send her to prison. She cried and told Bori. Bori was worried about her mother and decided to go to the hanbok shop with her to beg for mercy. When they arrived at the hanbok shop, Bori and her mother both knelt down and begged for mercy. Minjin took the opportunity to say that she would forgive them if they agreed to certain conditions. However, Bori could never come back to the hanbok shop again. Bori said that this demand was too much. Seeing this, In-ho also strongly demanded that Bori leave. Bori was very reluctant to leave the hanbok shop, but for her mother's sake, she agreed. Minjin finally got rid of her sister, the thorn in her side. That day, the president's wife's assistant came to the hanbok shop to order a set of formal attire for a meeting. Minjin took the opportunity to stir things up, saying that this was a good chance for In-ho to prove himself. She tells Sutai to step back. When Sutai returns, In-ho says he has a lot of experience and can take on the task himself. Sutai says she has already made arrangements. The next day, Sutai learns that In-ho secretly burned Yisu's work to win the competition years ago. She can't accept it. Sutai asks Ji-hoon to bring Bori in to design the hanbok. Minjin prepares a camera for her mother and forces her to go home to take pictures of Bori's work. Koojun refuses, but for Minjin's future, she reluctantly takes the pictures. After receiving Bori's design, the two begin planning their next move. Minjin says that Sutai is unable to move around easily and asks her to deliver it to the president's wife. Sutai agreed, but she kept a close eye on them. However, when the gift box was opened, the clothes had been replaced. Sutai was so angry she almost fainted. In-ho remained calm and said she had prepared a backup dress. Sutai finally realized it was their scheme. The meeting was about to begin. She had no choice but to choose Minjin's dress. Unexpectedly, Yisu arrived just in time with the dress. This surprised In-ho greatly. After comparing the two, the president's wife chose Yisu's hanbok. Minjin's plan had failed again. The next day, Koojun told his daughter that Bori had discovered the matter of taking photos of the hanbok. Minjin, upon hearing this, cursed Bori viciously. Koojun couldn't take it anymore and hit Minjin. She didn't want her daughter to lose her humanity just to win. At the hanbok shop, In-ho scolded Bori for getting the important dress wrong. Just then, Koojun walked in and took full responsibility for everything. Subong confronted his wife, asking if she had done it. Sutai also knew the truth deep down. She immediately declared Bori as her heir. That day, Ji-sang left documents and an engagement ring for Jae-hee and left. Jae-hee saw the documents on the table and asked Minjin if they were for him. Minjin felt something was wrong. She quickly grabbed them and explained they were for the hanbok shop. Then she hurriedly left. She discovered the documents were filled with her embarrassing photos. There were even previous evidence of her relationship with Ji-sang. Minjin frantically tore them up. At that moment, Ji-sang appeared. He told her that this was just the beginning. Minjin began to lose her mind. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ji-sang swapped out Minjin's USB drive. He told Minjin that from now on, her life would be filled with unrest. Minjin felt utterly despairing. Upon returning home, she gathered all the photos of Bori from when she was a child. Subong noticed the photos were missing. He went to Minjin's room to see what was going on. Minjin asked her foster father if there was anything wrong. Subong said he was just there to look at the design plans. Minjin hurriedly took out the USB drive containing the plans. The what played on the screen was a video of her own mother. Minjin panicked and quickly shut down the computer. Subong asked what had happened. Minjin explained that it might be Bori's mother trying to extort money from her. Subong had no choice but to pretend to believe her, but deep down, he already suspected that Minjin was up to something. That day, Ji-sang took his daughter out for a trip. Minjin, wanting to find out Ji-sang's plans, secretly, and to his residence. To her surprise, the door lock was set to the date they had fallen in love. Looking at the photos on the computer, she discovered that Ji-sang had been monitoring her all along. Angry, she directly formatted the computer. She took all the information about herself from the room. Before leaving, she applied some lipstick. She didn't realize that she had caused a big problem. When Yudan returned home, Minjin appeared. Ji-sang found the house in complete disarray. He knew that Minjin had been there. Minjin took Yudan away. Bori, who couldn't find Yudan, was harshly scolded by her mother. Minjin was tortured by Ji-sang for 5 5 days. She demanded that Ji-sang quit his job and leave immediately. Unexpectedly, Yu-den bit Min-jin fiercely. She then fled to the police station. Min-jin's plan had failed. The next day, Min-jin was taken away by the police as soon as she stepped out of the house. At the police station, Min-jin denied everything vehemently, but the police said there was sufficient evidence. Min-jin explained that it was Ji-sang's revenge. At that moment, she felt utterly hopeless. In-ho arrived. Min-jin pretended to be the victim, saying that Ji-sang had come to frame her again. In-ho felt his daughter was being wronged. Upon learning that his girlfriend had been arrested, Jae-hee couldn't believe it. He rushed to the police station to ask Min-jin what had happened. Min-jin poured out her grievances and deceived him. Jae-hee, who was unaware of the truth, believed her. Min-jin took the opportunity to falsely accuse Ji-sang of framing her. Seeing Jae-hee looking pensive, Min-jin told him to go back to the company and check the surveillance footage. To his surprise, the footage showed Ji-sang bullying Min-jin. Enraged, he immediately called Ji-sang over. Without giving him a chance to explain, he scolded him harshly. Ji-sang was confused and tried to explain, but Jae-hee refused to believe him. The once close relationship between the two brothers was shattered by Min-jin. That day, Do-ri couldn't bear her mother's pleas. She decided to go to the police station to help her sister. Min-jin was screaming hysterically when she saw Bo-ri arrive. She thought Bo-ri had come to watch her make a fool of herself. Bo-ri realized what was happening after learning about her sister's relationship with Ji-sang. Yu-dan was their biological daughter. With no other choice, she found Ji-sang and told him she was Yu-dan's mother. She hoped Ji-sang would let Min-jin go. Ji-sang said he would never forget Bo-ri's kindness in raising his daughter. In the end, he went to the police station and withdrew the charges. Min-jin, now free again, became proud once more. Ji-sang said he wasn't pursuing the matter because of Bo-ri, but Min-jin believed that Ji-sang no longer had the right to fight her. Yi-soo had always suspected that Bo-ri might be Subon's daughter, so she invited Bo-ri to the traditional Korean clothing shop to play. That day, Subon happened to appear in the backyard. Yu-den suddenly mentioned and the kite Bo-ri had drawn. This unintentionally triggered Bo-ri's latent memories. She casually ran to the corridor and found a secret compartment. She took out a box from over a decade ago. Opening it, she saw the kite she had hidden there. Subong rushed over upon seeing this. He saw his daughter's signature on it. He asked Bo-ri how she knew the kite was hidden there. Bo-ri said she found it by instinct. At that moment, Yi-soo rushed over and said that Bo-ri had always drawn pictures of his daughter. Subong found it hard to believe. Bo-ri, however, thought it was just a coincidence. Subong hurriedly found Yi-soo. Yi-soo told him that Bo-ri was an orphan, combining the clues from before, and thought that Bo-ri was very likely his daughter. That day, Min-jin was driving the luxury car Jae-hee had given her and was feeling happy. Ji-sang suddenly appeared. He threatened Min-jin fiercely, saying that the day she got married would be her day of disaster. Min-jin was so scared that she started crying. The next day, Ji-sang found Jae-hee and called many classmates to witness the scene. He hoped that Jae-hee would not marry Min-jin. Jae-hee asked Min-jin what had happened. Min-jin lied, saying that Ji-sang had been pursuing her and had even been arrested for harassing her 5 years ago. Feeling sorry for Min-jin, Jae-hee punched Ji-sang hard. Ji-sang left a threat, saying he would expose all of Min-jin's misdeeds, their wedding. The next day, Ji-sang was beaten up by several bodyguards. The documents in his hands were almost snatched away. That night, Koo-jun asked her daughter if she could attend her wedding. Min-jin cruelly refused her mother. Koo-jun looked at the gifts she had saved up for years. She thought she had to attend her daughter's wedding. On the day of the wedding, Koo-jun found Min-jin. She happily took out her gifts. Unexpectedly, Min-jin didn't even look at them and told her to leave. But her mother just wanted to give her blessing. As they struggled, the ring fell onto the road. Koo-jun hurried to pick it up. Suddenly, a car crashed into them. When Min-jin tried to get out to check, Jae-hee arrived just in time. He said that today was an auspicious day and not to worry about the stranger. Ji-sang, who had come to ruin the wedding, saw Koo-jun and hurriedly told Min-jin to save her. Min-jin muttered under her breath, wondering if the person was dead. Ji-sang noticed her standing by the window and shouted for her to take her mother to the hospital, but Min-jin said she had to attend the wedding. With a shred of conscience left, she called for an ambulance. Ji-sang, who had come to take revenge on Min-jin, was now protecting her mother. Koo-jun was still clutching the gift he had brought for his daughter. That day, Subong discovered that Bo-ri's painting was exactly the same as his daughter's. He braved the rain to find Bo-ri. He found her with a headache and fainting. Subong was convinced that she was his daughter. Min-jin's wedding was about to begin. In-ho kept urging his husband to go to the wedding, but Subong insisted on taking care of Bo-ri, who had fainted. In-ho had no choice but to go to the wedding alone. At the wedding, Ji-hoon cursed his brother for being an idiot. He knew that the bride was not a good person. Jae-hee's mother found Yoon-fi's photo in Min-jin's suitcase and was seen by Ji-hoon. He remembered what Subong had said, and suspected why Minjin had hidden Yunfi's photo. He found Subong and said that the missing photos had been hidden by Minjin. But Din Ho defended Minjin. Subong was very angry. He had always thought that Minjin was not a good person. Jaehee's mother also told Minjin that Jihoon had taken all the photos from her suitcase and said he was taking them to the hanbok shop. Minjin knew something was wrong. On her way home, she didn't expect to run into Jisang. Jisang said her retribution was coming soon and pushed Minjin into the pool. Minjin, looking disheveled, hurried back to the hanbok shop. Unexpectedly, Subong slapped her across the face. In-ho hurriedly spoke up for Minjin. Seeing this, Minjin lied and said that Bori was framing her. She even asked the nanny to testify for her. In-ho believed that Minjin was framed. He told his husband to apologize to Minjin immediately. Subong says, "What if Bori really is our daughter?" In-ho immediately retorts that he couldn't have fathered such an ugly daughter. Meanwhile, Bori finds a missing persons flyer with her childhood photo on it at her mother's house. At that moment, she realizes that she is Subong's daughter. Bori asks her mother why she didn't tell her. Kujun says it was for Minjin's sake, considering how she had raised him for so many years. Bori didn't tell her master that the child in the flyer was her. Subong told his wife that Bori was their daughter Yunfi, but In-ho still believed that Bori was sent by his older sister to take his position. The next day, Subong insisted on taking Bori for a paternity test. As expected, the results showed that they were father and daughter. Learning how badly Bori had been living all these years, Subong wept uncontrollably. Bori pulled her father close. The father and daughter finally recognized each other. At the venue, while In-ho was looking at documents, a photo suddenly fell out. She realized it was a photo of her daughter when she was young. She asked Minjin how Yunfi ended up taking a photo with Huju. After seeing the photo, Minjin realized that Jisang still wouldn't let her go. As the truth was about to be exposed, Minjin directly threatened In-ho, saying, "You're the one who killed Yisu's husband." In-ho, seeing this, was helpless. Later, In-ho took the torn photo and found Hujun. He vented all his hatred on her. He demanded to know where his daughter was being hidden, but Hujun never revealed Bori's whereabouts. At that moment, Yisu entered the room. She directly stated that the person Minjin hated the most, Bori, was actually her daughter, Yunfi. In-ho couldn't believe what he heard. That day, Jisang found Minjin again and warned her. Minjin hurriedly told her mother to take Yudan to the airport. Kujun thought something else had happened. Minjin explained that Jisang couldn't find any evidence against her because they were leaving the country. As long as Yudan wasn't there, Jisang wouldn't be able to touch her. Bori noticed that all the passports were missing from the house. She rushed to find Minjin and asked where her daughter was. But Minjin falsely accused Bori of wanting to marry Jihoon and intentionally had her mother take her away. Unable to take it anymore, Bori slapped Minjin. This scene was witnessed by In-ho, who was hiding in the corner. She finally realized that Bori had been framed by Minjin all along. As Kujun was about to board the plane, Jisang arrived. In the commotion, Kujun lost his ticket. Unexpectedly, Yuden had secretly followed a stranger onto the car because she was afraid her existence would prevent Bori from getting married. Back home, Bori pleaded with her foster mother to reveal where Yudan was. As long as Yudan returned, she would not marry and would not reunite with her biological mother. Kujun blamed Bori for causing all the trouble. Just then, In-ho entered. She pushed Kujun aside. She finally realized how pitiful Yunfi had lived for the past 20 years. The next day, Kujun told Minjin that the child had gone missing. Now even he didn't know where Yudan was. But Minjin was actually quite happy to hear this. Kujun scolded his daughter for being heartless. Just then, In-ho appeared. Minjin panicked. She told Minjin never to call her mother again. She didn't have such a shameless daughter. Kujun told Minjin that In-ho had actually come at her request. She admitted that Minjin was her own daughter. That day, In-ho told Minjin that he was preparing to file for adoption. But Minjin, feeling confident, pulled out a recording. She asked if he wanted Sutai to find out that he was the one who had killed his uncle. In-ho was terrified. Minjin told In-ho to cooperate with her to stop Bori from marrying Jihoon. Meanwhile, Kujun finally had a change of heart. She planned to go to Minjin's company to expose everything. Minjin hurriedly stopped her mother. Kujun said she couldn't let her continue making mistakes. In the car, Minjin went crazy and threatened her mother to die with her. Kujun couldn't help but soften her heart again. At the same time, Minjin forged Bori's plane ticket and exposed it to Jihoon's father. She said that Bori had driven her own mother abroad to marry Jihoon. Jihoon's father was furious upon hearing this. The next day, Jisang came directly to Minjin's house and handed her the photos. Minjin nervously snatched them away. At that moment, Jaehee confronted Minjin. With no other choice, she had to hand them over. Jaehee opened them and found that they were all about Minjin's past. Moreover, she was an orphan. At that moment, Minjin had no face left to stay. Jaehee Jae-hee found Minjin and said that he had trusted her so much before. Minjin continued to lie and said that they were just friends at the time. Jae-hee began to suspect Minjin. He secretly installed a GPS tracker in Minjin's car. Minjin happened to see it in the corner. That day, the Korean clothing shop held a family gathering. Everyone was surprised to see Bori, an outsider, there. Subong told Ji-hoon that Bori was Yoonfi. Seeing this happy scene, Jae-hee immediately left, because he knew that Minjin was hiding Yoonfi's photo. With no face left, he told Minjin not to touch him. When Minjin got into the car, Ji-sang appeared again. She was struggling fiercely. When she suddenly remembered Jae-hee's tracking device, she calmed down. The two then went to an abandoned factory. Ji-sang made Minjin kneel and apologize to her deceased father. Jae-hee received a distress message from Minjin. Upon arriving at the door, he stood quietly watching. Minjin noticed Jae-hee and began deliberately seeking sympathy. Watching his woman being beaten, Jae-hee swung his fist at Ji-sang again. Just then, his subordinates arrived. Ji-sang warned Jae-hee again to see Minjin's true colors. He then played a video. Jae-hee saw Minjin's face filled with happiness. He realized he had been deceived by his wife all along. Minjin trembled all over after being exposed. She claimed she was truly sincere about wanting to be with Jae-hee. She then ran to beg Ji-sang not to take revenge on her anymore. Seeing his pitiful wife, Jae-hee told Ji-sang, "She is now my wife, right? And Ron don't need you to remind me." He said this and left directly. Minjin immediately followed after him. Ji-sang realized he had also hurt Jae-hee's heart. Minjin told her husband that she hoped he wouldn't tell his father about this. Otherwise, his position in the company would be inferior to his brother's. Back home, Jae-hee could only bear all this alone. The next day, Minjin actively sought out Ji-sang. Ji-sang mocked her harshly. Minjin warned him that if there were any more problems with her marriage, he should worry about the consequences for Yudan. On the day of Bori's wedding, because Minjin wasn't invited to the banquet, she threatened In-ho to come out and meet her. Seeing Bori and Yisu approaching, In-ho became even more panicked. Fortunately, Ji-sang, who was attending the wedding, arrived. Ji-sang warned Minjin not to ruin Bori's wedding, otherwise she would tell Jae-hee about Yudan. Just like that, In-ho rushed back to the wedding venue at the last minute. That night, In-ho didn't want to sit around and wait for disaster to strike, so she asked Minjin where her driver from back then was. Minjin said she would tell her if she helped her win the handball competition. In-ho was cornered by Minjin and had no way out. She had no idea that her husband was standing outside the door listening to everything. In-ho found Ji-sang and learned that Minjin had given birth to a child. She knew how to deal with Minjin now, but Minjin also started taking action. She used the driver's phone to send a message to Subong. It said that In-ho was the driver's ex-girlfriend. Subong was shocked. In-ho also found Minjin and told her about the child she had given birth to. Minjin was scared. That day, Bori was riding in her mother's car. As In-ho stepped on the gas pedal, Bori began to recall her childhood memories. In the afternoon, In-ho found Minjin and told her that Bori had started to remember the car accident from her childhood. If everything was exposed, all their years of hard work for the Korean traditional clothing competition would be ruined. But Minjin remained confident and told him not to worry. Everything was under her control. When In-ho returned home, Bori was waiting for her mother at the door. She hoped her mother would confess everything to her sister-in-law, but In-ho said that if she revealed the truth, the family would be ruined. Bori still wanted her mother to confess to killing her uncle. That day, Subong called Minjin over and directly asked her where she had hidden the driver. Minjin said it was all In-ho's plan. In-ho was so scared he didn't know what to do. Now Subong didn't believe his wife at all. Minjin threatened In-ho, saying she helped her win the handball competition. Then everything would be fine. In the afternoon, Bori confessed to her grandmother about her uncle's accident. Just as In-ho was about to be exposed, Koo-jung walked in. He said he knew the truth about the car accident. It was actually Minjin who had arranged for her to lie. She said it was for Yudon's happiness that she had to say it. So Koo-jung made up a lie, saying that Yisu had thrown Bori out of the car. He saw the child was pitiful, so he took her home. Bori defended Yisu. Minjin, however, said that 20 years ago, her sister-in-law had come to their house and seen Bori. She had never mentioned it before. In-ho saw this and hurriedly agreed. Yisu, helpless, was on the verge of breaking down, but Minjin's own troubles were also mounting. Ji-sang revealed her true identity to Jae-hee's father. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon happened to pass by the office and discovered Jae-hee's lawyer's secret. When he picked it up, he saw the contents of the contract. It turned out that Jae-hee didn't want to divorce Minjin. It was because of a merger worth 20 billion won with Minjin. As long as Minjin wasn't abandoned, he would have the opportunity to secretly sell the hanbok shop. His father then ordered Jae-hee to divorce Minjin immediately. Jae-hee knew that Ji-sang had ruined his plan. He went crazy and wanted to find him, but unexpectedly, Minjin went to find Ji-sang first. Seeing Ji-sang working in the factory, Min-jin thought that as long as he wasn't there, the world would have no troubles. She then fiercely pressed the remote control for the crane. After Ji-sang was severely injured by the falling cargo, Jae-hee rushed over and asked Min-jin if she had lost her mind. Min-jin replied that as long as her husband wanted to do something, she would do everything in her power to help him achieve it. Jae-hee was completely shocked. Min-jin even stopped her husband from calling an ambulance. Back at home, the mother-in-law said she wouldn't let Min-jin stay with Jae-hee. But Min-jin, feeling confident, sighed, "If you don't want everyone to know that your son tried to murder someone, don't ever mention divorce again." However, the father-in-law wasn't intimidated by her threats. Min-jin finally met her match. Ji-sang, who had escaped from the hospital, told Ji-hoon that he had almost been murdered by Min-jin. The next day, Min-jin began vomiting. She then arrogantly told her father-in-law that she was pregnant. Her father-in-law knew Min-jin was cunning and told his wife to take Min-jin to the hospital herself. After learning that Min-jin was really pregnant, her mother-in-law was on the verge of a breakdown. Min-jin happily asked the doctor to prescribe some tonics. Meanwhile, Ji-sang contacted Jae-hee's father, claiming that Min-jin had tried to kill him and that it had been caught on camera by a crane. He planned to send Min-jin to prison. The chairman said that although Min-jin was a terrible person, the child in her womb was innocent. Jae-hee said he would immediately contact a lawyer to handle the matter. Meanwhile, Min-jin called the hospital to inquire about the situation. She learned that Ji-sang was still unconscious. She didn't know that Ji-sang had secretly checked out of the hospital. At the company meeting, Min-jin falsely accused Ji-sang of transferring company assets, thinking there was no evidence against her. Ji-sang appeared in time and presented the surveillance footage from the day of the incident. Min-jin was speechless under everyone's questioning. As a result, she was expelled from the company and lost her job. Min-jin, who lost her job, wanted to save her marriage through the hanbok competition. She worked hard late into the night preparing for the competition. She then noticed blood flowing from her foot. In-ho, who happened to pass by, rushed her to the hospital. To their horror, the baby was gone. Moreover, there was almost no chance of her conceiving again. Upon hearing the news, Min-jin couldn't believe it. She begged In-ho not to tell Jae-hee. In-ho said the condition for keeping it a secret was that she immediately reveal Yudan's true identity. After learning that Yudan is Min-jin's biological daughter, In-ho tells Min-jin that after the hanbok competition, she must take Yudan and leave Bori forever. Jae-hee learns from Subong that Min-jin went to the hospital. After investigating, she finds out that the child is gone. The next day, Min-jin cries and begs her father-in-law for the pregnancy allowance. She said that once she got it, she would leave the house. Unexpectedly, Jae-hee came and directly revealed that the child was gone. At that moment, Min-jin thought it was In-ho who had exposed her. In-ho gave Bori the fabric Min-jin had used for the competition. He said that if she burned it, Min-jin wouldn't be able to win the competition. However, Bori wasn't willing to do it. At that moment, Min-jin arrived. After taking it back, she said to In-ho, "I never thought you could be worse than me." Jae-hee called Ji-sang over. He beat Ji-sang severely. He demanded to know why he had always hidden the fact that Yudan was his biological daughter. Ji-sang said he was afraid it would affect his daughter's upbringing. Jae-hee told him to take Yudan and leave immediately. That night, Jae-hee burned all the memories he had with Min-jin. He reminisced about the sweet times he had with his wife. In truth, the two of them were in love. However, he couldn't accept her having a daughter. He told Ji-sang that he was ready to cut ties with Min-jin. Ji-sang also said that the materials to sue Min-jin were ready to be submitted. After the hanbok competition, she would be sent to prison. Min-jin never expected that her husband and ex-boyfriend would team up against her. She had fought for 20 years and gained nothing. On that day, Min-jin was sued by her husband, Ji-sang, and the company all at once. After the Korean traditional clothing competition, Min-jin faced imprisonment. Koo-jun happened to overhear this. She hurriedly told her daughter to flee, but Min-jin insisted on continuing the competition. Unfortunately, at the entrance, In-ho secretly swapped her entry with his own. In-ho confessed the truth about his uncle's car accident at the scene, admitting that he hadn't called for help, leading to his uncle's death. At that moment, she wasn't afraid of being threatened. Min-jin was desperate and went mad. The work she had spent 20 years on had been replaced. No one stood up to help her clear her name. As expected, Bori won and became the heir to the Handok Museum. Subong told Min-jin that he had already processed the adoption papers. From now on, she was no longer their daughter. One blow after another was too much to bear. Taking advantage of the chaos, Min-jin put on her mother's clothes and fled. Koo-jun had no choice but to beg the chairman to save Min-jin. The chairman sighed. "Your daughter is in this situation because of you." Min-jin rushed home to retrieve the wedding ring she shared with Jae-hee. The obedient Yudan brought her some food, but Min-jin, in a frenzy, pushed it away. After she cut her hand, Yudan brought her a band-aid. Min-jin finally realized that a simple life was true happiness. She called Jae-hee and said she hoped they could spend a simple day together. Jae-hee agreed. This was their last meeting. In front of Jae-hee, Min-jin confessed her true feelings. She said her feelings for him were genuine, but Jae-hee rejected her with disdain. He then took off Min-jin's wedding ring and threw it into the fire, and said he had called the police. before leaving without a second glance. Looking at her most precious wedding ring, Minjin reached out and took it. Having lost everything in a single day, Minjin walked toward the lake in despair. Her mother, who had rushed to save her, also accidentally drowned. Kuchun's life hung in the balance. Having lost everything, Minjin finally realized that her mother was the most important person in her life. She refused to bandage her severely burned hands. All she wanted was for her mother to wake up. After a series of emergency treatments, Kujun finally pulled through. At that moment, the police were preparing to take Minjin away. Minjin pleaded with Bori, hoping to stay by her mother's side until she woke up before leaving. Bori scolded Minjin for her actions. Taking advantage of her mother's unconscious state, she hurriedly had the police take Minjin away. In-ho signed a divorce agreement on his own and left Hanbakwan as promised. Kujun, severely injured from drowning, became a confused madman. He insisted on returning to the countryside to find his daughter every day. Meanwhile, In-ho, seeking redemption, and repaid Hujun for raising Bori for 20 years. She has been taking care of Hujun. After going mad, Kujun only remembers that Bori is his daughter. Meanwhile, In-ho has become a sewing teacher in prison. Seeing Minjin's injured hands, he urges her to go to the hospital for treatment. But Minjin says this is the punishment she deserves, and also the most precious gift she has. Over the past 3 years, he had often received things Minjin sent him, but he had never opened any of them, and kept cursing Minjin, unable to bear it anymore. In-ho found Jae-hee and told him about Minjin's current situation, hoping that Jae-hee would look after Minjin. When Minjin was released from prison, she avoided everyone. She looked at her former husband and cried bitterly. Minjin, who had just been released from prison, seemed unaware that her mother had gone mad. After learning that her mother had gone missing, she became extremely anxious and began to care for her. She even confronted them, asking why they could still laugh. Bori reassured her that her mother always ended up at the noodle shop, so there was no need to worry. Seeing how much her mother loved it, Minjin bought the shop from the owner. Minjin kept telling her mother that she was her biological daughter, but Hujun harshly struck Minjin on the head, saying, "You're so ugly. How could you possibly be my daughter?" To make her mother love her, she dyed her long hair short like Bori's and started delivering meals like Bori. But her mother pulled her hair every day, just like she did to Bori. After 20 years of going in circles, Minjin returned to her original life, but her mother, who had drowned, had long forgotten Minjin. She only remembered her daughter Bori and wouldn't let Bori do anything. When she faces Minjin, she only has scolding for her. Minjin has become just like Bori when she was a child. Jae-hee sees Hujun hitting Minjin and can't help but pull them apart. Then he hands Minjin some money. He hopes Minjin will use it to get her hands treated, but Minjin says she did it voluntarily. Jae-hee speaks harshly on her behalf, saying this is the last time he'll come to see her. After saying that, he leaves. Minjin hurriedly chases after Jae-hee, hoping he'll find a new wife. After all, he's been single for 3 years. Life is often like this, because of family and background. Two people who love each other can't be together. After finding her mother, Minjin hugs her and says, "Let's go home." Just then, Kujun calls out Minjin's name. Finally, her mother remembers her name, but to her surprise, her mother is calling a dog on the street. Watching her mother's back, Minjin felt incredibly happy at that moment. After all, her mother at least still remembered her name, even if she was just a dog in her mother's heart. This was already a good start. Jisang also found a new girlfriend. Surprisingly, she looked exactly like Minjin. In the end, everyone returned to their original positions. To film ends here. If you're interested, please like and follow us. See you next time.